And joining me today from beautiful San Diego, California, Dr. Tony Alessandra. How are you, Tony?
I'm doing great, Brad.
Fantastic.
Great.
Now, buddy, how does a guy from New York, Jersey, and Brooklyn, how do you end up living in San Diego on the beach? And what are you doing wearing black living in San Diego?
Well, I put the black on for you, all right? As soon as this is over, this comes off, and I put on my Notre Dame T-shirt.
I was going to say, or does it become like the flowery Tommy Bahamas T-shirt for being down there on the beach?
Yeah, no question about it. No, this is my formal dress. So, but I came out here to be in this beautiful environment. I mean, why wouldn't somebody come to San Diego?
Yeah, well, that's what we're all planning to do, where you're going to come teach us. Now, going to the Hotel del Coronado, which in and of itself is like a bucket list hotel for a lot of people. So that's going to be great. But buddy, moving from, one side of the country to the other brings us to a lot of what it is that you teach. And that is about how you actually, I guess, fit in with the right people. And you go back to, I remember you twisting the golden rule and turning it into the platinum rule. Teach us that, because I think that's a great lesson for people. And I want everyone to know just how much of a genius you are and how lucky they are that you're going to come teach for us.
Well, the golden rule, everybody knows the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I believe in the rule 110%, particularly when it comes to values, ethics, honesty, etc. But when it comes to one-to-one communication, whether it is managing and leading people or, in particular, selling people, the golden rule can backfire, because it says that I should treat you the way I want to be treated, as opposed to treating you the way you want to be treated. So I came up with the platinum rule, which is do unto others as they would have you do unto them. Basically, adjusting your selling style to fit the customer's buying style, or managing people in a way that motivates them, internally motivates them to want to follow, not have to follow. So that is a key underlying concept to what I do, to what I speak about.
It's real interesting, because a lot of managers, leaders, salespeople, they use their style on everyone. It's like, it doesn't matter what customer you've got. And I love the DISC profiling tool to understand that, and, the behaviors of different people, but because people buy differently, Tony. They
do. Some people are faster paced, some people slower paced. Some people want you to schmooze with them a little, talk to them, get to know them. Others, right down to business. You need to be able to quickly size up a customer and decide, do I move faster or slower? Do I jump right into the presentation, or do I get them to know me and me to know them a little bit more? And there are specific clues, behaviors that you look at right up front that tell you which direction to move. Move in the right direction. Increases your probability of making a sale.
It's amazing how, when you learn these tools, or when you learn this ability to communicate differently, you can change. And I remember when I first did profiles, and it was like, oh, I'm a high D. And nowadays I've learned how to be a high DISC, and how to sell anyone in their tone. And even the communication ones, the value tools, all of these things are so valuable. But it's not just sales, it's customer service as well. It's leadership and management.
Absolutely. The whole thing, it's how to deal effectively with people. And by the way, this whole concept is not just business. It's not just management. It's not just sales. It's not just service. This actually impacts your personal life too. And your personal life affects your business life. If things are not going well at home, things are not going to go well at work. So it's a great communication tool that will help you personally and professionally. But that's only part of what I'm going to do in San Diego. That's just a little part.
Yeah. Now, look, understanding that stuff is really important, but it goes to the next level when it comes to recruiting, managing, leading, all of that stuff. I mean, just from even just a management perspective, so if we go there before we go to recruiting, leading and managing people, they all have to be led and managed differently. What do we need to look at there? Is it just their behaviors, or are there other areas we need to understand?
No, I think you want to look at the behavior, as you mentioned, DISC, dominance, influence, steadiness, or conscientiousness. We want to know because what moves one person and motivates one person can totally turn off another person. So we need to know the buttons to push to get the most out of our employees. But even beyond that, I want to know what really motivates these people. Are they motivated by being altruistic, helping other people? Are they motivated by money? Are they motivated by learning and growing? All these things help me manage each employee the way they need to be managed to get the most productivity out of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's, you just said it there, manage each employee the way that gets the best productivity out of them. And I think if you look at that from behaviors, from values, communication profiles, there's so many different ways to understand a human. But Tony, I'm just a business guy. Do I really need to understand humans at this level?
Well, first of all, I think you do, Brad. You do. And I think you do a lot of it intuitively. But, for a lot of people, if they don't know this, they are not getting the most out of their company. They are not getting the most out of their employees. Do they need to know this? They must know this. Because it will get more business for them. It will get more employee loyalty. It will have less turnover. I can go on and on. They must know this.
Well, let's talk about that employee loyalty. But to get loyal ones, you got to recruit them first.
Right.
Tony, most people have never learned recruiting, okay? Let's be blunt. Most of us in business, most people have recruited by the seat of their pants. Let's be honest.
That's it.
Bunch of resumes. Maybe resumes are padded, maybe they're not. They go through them and they bring them in for a one-to-one interview. There's no science behind it. There's no system behind it. Let's look at that, because I know you're going to be teaching us about the science of recruiting as well. Help me understand, why do we need to know the science of recruiting? Because this is something that I think people, if I can be really blunt, Tony, it's like, do I really need to put that much time and energy into that one?
Okay, well, what's the cost of turnover? The cost of turnover is absolutely incredible. For salespeople, you hire a salesperson. If they don't work out, what's the cost? The cost of hiring, the cost of training. What about the cost of the impact that they have on your customers and your prospects? Possibly customers lost, sales lost. So yes, we need to know that we're hiring the right people. I want to make sure that let's say when I hire somebody, I'm hiring somebody who can be a superstar, not somebody who 3 or 6 or 12 months later, I'm going to have to let go and start all over again. All of us have experienced that, Brad, all of us.
Yeah.
But there's another side to the coin, and that is, when we talk about recruiting, most people only talk about, well, what if we hire the wrong person? What's the cost of that? Well, thousands of dollars. But what about this, Brad? What if you don't hire somebody who would have been a superstar and they go to one of your competitors? And now because of that, the competitor is eating your lunch. What happens is most people, when they hire, they hire very subjectively. Do I like this person? Do I think the person would fit in? It's all subjective. And sometimes we hire in our own likeness.
No, that's never happened, Tony.
Right?
I love watching people interview and they do a job interview and they go, yeah, I really like that person. Well, why did you like them? Because you chatted for an hour and they just listened to you. It blows my mind that people don't even go in with prepped questions, let alone prepped profiles of the type of exact person we're looking for. So let's go to the science then a little bit of recruiting. And if I can just focus on salespeople, Tony, because I want to focus there because I think that can make such a massive difference to an organization. Let's look at the science behind it. I remember when I first started hiring salespeople, my science was, are they a hunter or a farmer? That was my only science. Give me an understanding of this.
Well, hunters and farmers, or gatherers, hunters and gatherers. If you look just at that disc concept, the D's and the I's are hunters. The S's and the C's are the gatherers. So for instance, if you're hiring somebody who is, let's say, not a face-to-face salesperson, and it's very much based on repeat business and a lot of customer contact over a period of time, I might err on the side of looking at an S, let's say an S, because they're really good. But if I'm looking at somebody who has to go out, maybe they're on a partial or a total commission, if they don't make a sale, they don't eat, then I'm definitely looking at the D's and the I's. I have one customer, Brad, a big customer, and what they do is they've identified over a 40-year period of time, simply using the DISC assessment, that there are 3 profiles that are the best hunters, the people who go out, and they're primarily typically a high I, which is influential. Whoa, I mean, that's sales, isn't it? Persuaders. And also a high D, but the I is higher than the D. But that's what they look for, and over 40 years, they've had unbelievable success. Now, that doesn't mean that the interview, the resume, the recommendations don't play a part in this. They must play a part in it. But let's add a piece of objectivity into the selection process, not just all subjective.
Buddy, that's a really good word, objectivity, because I use the word science in this, but an objective nature. But let's go even further then, because behavioral is one thing. I think, though, we've got to look past just behavioral motivators, what the science of what motivates someone and understanding their key motivators, because, you know, value, is it money? Is it, what are the things? Give me more of an understanding of that, because I don't think people, and I know you're going to teach us a bunch down in San Diego, but I don't think people even realize that it's important to know that or why it's important.
Yeah, it's crucial. We just did a study, Brad. We were looking at auto salespeople, and we profiled 120 salespeople, and we wanted to see, based on their sales and their longevity with the auto dealer, whether we can identify a pattern of behavior that separated the high performers from the low performers. And here's what we found, that the best salespeople had a high D, dominant profile, and they were, now here's it's a mind blower, a high altruism. High altruism. So in other words, yes, so an auto salesperson. Now that's not intuitive, is it? So
no, that's the opposite of intuitive, Tony. The opposite of intuitive.
Driven. I'm going to go out. I'm going to, I'm a hunter, but I'm out there, and what's in my mind is I'm out there to help people, not necessarily drill them and sell them, but to help. So I'm driven, I'm focused, but I'm out there to help people. When they started using this profile, the high altruistic, the high D, their sales went up 20-something%, for the dealerships, and their turnover went down fairly dramatically. So this is the beauty of adding a piece of objectivity into recruiting. But one thing that we've talked about in the past, even beyond what we're talking about, is what about the whole concept of how do we retain salespeople? Even though we use these best recruiting practices to pick the right people who have the highest propensity to be top performers, how do we keep them? And now we get into the whole training function. How do we train them to make sure that they're selling the right way, that they are exceeding their customers' expectations, that they are creating people who are promoters, the customers who are promoters, who are out there in the marketplace, in a sense, preaching the gospel for that salesperson, for their products, and for the company.
Right, so hang on then, Tony. So we're not just talking about the science helping with recruiting. We're talking about the science of retaining these people as well.
Recruiting and retaining. They go hand in hand, hand in glove. So the concept of retaining is not just recruiting the right salespeople, but how do we keep them? How do we hone them? An example that I use, Brad, I don't know how much you know about American baseball, but being from San Diego, I was a fan of the San Diego Padres, who it's frustrating.
Yeah,
but anyway, that's a whole other story.
Good luck with that.
That's right. But I follow players. And we had a player, his name was Tony Gwynn. I don't know if you remember that name.
No.
This guy, Tony Gwynn, won eight batting titles in his career. He tied Stan Musial for the most batting titles. But here is a guy who was such a gifted batter, but yet every day he was the first one out at batting practice. He was the last one to leave batting practice. He filmed all of his batting practices. He studied those batting practices at home, always looking for ways to hone his skills, to become better and better. And I believe that we can take this concept into our sales people and our employees. But let's talk about salespeople. How do we take somebody who has the ability to be a top performer and make sure that they become a superstar? Not just a top performer, but a superstar. And it revolves around continuous training, making sure we hone every aspect of the sales process. Everything from prospecting to the actual face-to-face selling process, to keeping their customers, to turning their customers into apostles who preach the gospel for that salesperson in that company. And yes, that's what I'm going to focus on, to tell our attendees how to do this so that we can recruit top performers and then not just keep them, but keep raising their level of performance.
So if I understand that correctly, Tony, we got to train people differently based on their profile. We can't just train everyone the same way.
That is correct. Absolutely. And let me tell you something, Brad. When I first started in the training and speaking business, I would go out and I would train, I would do these programs for 100, 500 salespeople, the same content for everybody sitting in the audience. Some of the people in the audience didn't need some of the things I was talking about, while others did. And then when I got on another subject, those people needed it, but the other people didn't. So when you know somebody's style, when you know what moves and motivates them, you can actually tailor your training salesperson by salesperson to focus on those areas that they need most.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I look at team performance. So managing them, it's better. I mean, to recruit, we got to know what we're looking for and how to do it. There's a science. To train them, to keep them, to manage them, to lead them, to make a sale. So, all right. So understanding all this human stuff is going to be important for me as a businessman. I got to put in the time, energy, and effort to it, I guess.
But Brad, let me tell you something. I'm getting the feeling that maybe I'm saying how difficult this may be. But let me tell you something. One of the things that has marked my career and has made me successful in my career is I love to take complicated subjects and do two things: simplify them and make them practical and usable. And I can tell you that, when people come to my sessions, there's a lot of ahas. It's simple. Whenever I went through school, I always asked my teachers, explain it so that I understand it. Okay, I understand it now. How do I use it? And that's what I do. Make it simple so everybody says, wow, yeah, I can do that. And then practical. Now I know what to do and how to do it.
Which is brilliant, because as a businessman, every day life gets more and more complex. If you could simplify it for me, I'm gonna love that stuff. Tony, thank you for your time today, buddy. I really appreciate it. We really look forward to chatting with you in San Diego. And I know you're going to hang out with us a little bit down there because it's your hometown. And maybe you can point out some great restaurants for us that we can all go visit.
Excellent.
Tony, if I can just finish off on one last thing. The Platinum Rule changed the way we did a lot of our sales and improved all of our sales. So I'm really looking forward to learning all of this about the science of recruiting, and maybe it'll help us with even better recruiting going forward.
Yes, believe me, I'm going to cover all of this. It's going to be a great presentation. One of the things that marks my presentations is they're upbeat, they're fun, entertaining, but very practical and simple concepts. I guarantee you people are going to walk out of there with a whole bunch of new things they're going to do differently and more successfully.